Hello, 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 and welcome to Reaching Minds mini series. I'm your host, Brianna Williams, MS. I am so excited that you guys are tuning in just on this mini series on how to therapy. So, welcome, 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 welcome. In order to begin, I definitely want to, before we dive into all of the different topics that we're going to talk about in this mini series, I want to kind of introduce myself. I want to kind of get you guys just to let you know a little bit about me, a little about who I am, a little bit about, my passion behind just the field, just the mental health field, especially as an advocate and especially as a Black woman therapist in the field. Let me give myself a round of applause for that. So listen. So we're going to be talking about different things like how to find the right therapist, knowing your client rights, what can you advocate for in your own treatment, and just trusting the process, how you go through the process, what does it look like, am I doing therapy right? A lot of people would ask that question. What does it look like? And so during this mini series, we're going to be diving into it. And if you have any questions, please ask those questions. Please send me a message. Also, please reach out to me on Instagram at Reaching Minds, follow, like, all these different things so you can stay connected. We're just here to learn with each other. We're here to grow with each other. So with that being said, let's dive right in. Who am I? The title of this first episode is I'm a Black woman therapist. I graduated in 2022. I graduated with my master's in community trauma counseling from Jefferson University. So definitely, if you are exploring, grad schools, definitely check out Jefferson's program. Definitely a great opportunity just to be around professionals, to learn, to get that firsthand experience. So definitely when you're choosing your program, see what they offer. See if there are any specialties that you're interested in, see if they offer that. See if they offer any ways for you to kind of connect with your professors and connect with just others in the field. How can you get out there? How can you network and things like that? So graduated in 2022, got my first job working with youth that were going through a lot of different things. Some of them, they were, just readjusting from being incarcerated. Some were in the midst of like some court cases and trials. And then there were some that were just acting out in school, not showing up, truancy, fighting in school, things like that. So I just worked with a lot of troubled youth. The program that I was working with was a intervention program. And so this was a short-term program where I worked with the kids individually. I worked with the parents and the family as a whole. So a lot of my job was beyond therapy. And I definitely recommend if you are in the field or, starting out in the field to not only just do therapy, but do some social work, do some case management. Really allow yourself to see the environments of some of the populations that you want to work with. When I first started out, I wanted to work in juveniles. I wanted to work with juveniles. And that was a very big passion of mine. Still is to this day. And just being able to be in that space, seeing where people lived at, seeing where people come from, their different ideas, seeing just the lack of support from family and how that impacts our youth and that impacts, the decisions that they make. And even seeing some that had supportive parents, that had 2-parent homes, that had, they could get the things that they needed and wanted, from their parents and things like that, and still see them go into these different crowds, go into these different arenas that, they were trying to be something that they weren't, or trying to find just an avenue for them to fit in, which led them to different crimes that they committed, or led them to be around the wrong crowd, or led them to do things that, we would see a lot of like our educators today would kind of deem or write that population off, or say that's the trouble child, or that's this and that. But they're really just trying to find themselves. They're really just trying to fit in, find their groove and things like that. So definitely, like, it was a good experience working with that population. However, I found that I couldn't get the most benefit out of the field and out of my profession, because when you are providing free services, so these services were free of charge, no insurance, no money, nothing like that. When you are faced with providing free services, you get some people that a lot of the people that I've dealt with, like, that don't take advantage of the full resource. They will get the bits and pieces that will help, or if they're not seeing their child being quote unquote fixed, or quote unquote doing what they want them to do, then it wasn't working. The treatment wasn't working. And so I faced a lot of like pushback, or a lot of like no show, or like lack of engagement, not just from the child, but also from the family, from the parent or the parents. And so that made it hard for me to be effective in the role, and to really allow myself to really exercise those skills that I've learned in school. So fast forwarding to present day, I have been, working with a practice, and it has been very, very insightful, of just the difference of treatment that I'm able to provide, the wide range of just clients that I see day to day. I see kids, I see adults, teenagers, young adults, even some seniors, and even still receiving some of the pushback, or some of the fix my child, or still receiving some of those things that I even dealt with in the realm of like providing free services, is still there even in private practice. But I have been able to really just grow and hit a stumbling block of imposter syndrome. At my old job, I was not challenged. When I first came in, I was ready, I was on fire. But, receiving like a lot of like the pushback and the lack of support, I kind of dialed back, the therapist side of me, and went into, mother mode, or case manager mode, or social worker mode, or all these different things. And all those roles were necessary. All those roles were played a part and made an effect. But I realized like I really wasn't operating and using the knowledge that I've learned. And so this job challenged me. And still to this day, it still does. It challenged me the most, especially in my first couple months, because it was like, wow, like I really got to go back, and I have to like really look at, some of these theorists and theories, and some of these techniques. Like I got to refresh on those things. I got to really dive in to see, what is going on. How can I get through to this person? How can I make this treatment or this session the most effective, especially dealing with like adults. That was something new for me. I've always dealt with kids, even in, not just with therapy, but also in my other jobs, growing up. I've always dealt with kids. I dealt with kids in church, when I'm doing ministry and things like that. And so it was very, very, very different because I don't look my age. I don't look grown. Sometimes I fit in, with the teenagers. I can be lumped in there. I'm short. I don't, I don't look like I'm supposed to be here. As well as being black, being a black woman, where most of the people in my practice were white, of the majority race, and so definitely imposter syndrome really, really crept in. And so having to have those talks with my supervisor, and I am glad that I have a supervisor who is very open, who is very supportive and very pushes me to excel and do the things that I feel like I can't do sometimes, or I'm like, you know what, I don't think this client is going to work for me, but really just allowing myself to say it's okay to not know all the answers. It's okay that you can't help this person. They don't want that type of help. It's okay to even get it wrong sometimes. It's okay. And so I definitely had to learn that a lot within working in this field, on top of, just life in general, and having to navigate those things. And so coming into this space where I have to take on another person's problems and worries and fears and things like that when I'm trying to figure out my own, it was definitely tough. But, definitely pushing and seeing my way through, I'm able to feel a little bit more confident in the skills and able to have more success stories because I'm allowing myself to push through. So if you are definitely in school, or you are definitely new to the field, please push through and allow yourself to do things outside of the box and to learn other modalities, other skills, other techniques. Don't stay in the box. Definitely learn how to be eclectic. Definitely learn how to, go with the flow, and don't feel like you have to have all the answers, because we're human. We're not going to have all the answers. We're going to misinterpret things. We're going to misunderstand. We're not always going to get it right. And that's okay. That's okay. Even for the professional, it's okay. And so, yeah, I had to learn that, and it was definitely a good learning experience, and I'm still learning. We learn every day. But definitely, I want to dive into a little bit of being a Black therapist. It's rare for us. It's very rare to see a Black therapist. And I'm talking about men and women, especially male. We need you guys. We need the Black men in the field. But as a whole, Black women, Black therapists as a whole, it's only about 4% of Black therapists in the field. And then there's 27% by BIPOC therapists. So that is definitely a very low number. And so that definitely, I think that definitely affects, part of the reason why we see a low number of Black Americans seeking therapy. Statistics show that there's about 25% of Black Americans that only seek mental health services. But these are the kind of barriers that they experience. They experience not having insurance coverage. A lot of us don't have mental health insurance, or if we do have insurance, it doesn't cover a lot of the amount. And so now we have this big bill. Therapy requires at least once or once a week or bi-weekly appointments. So that's another bill that's going to stack up, when you don't have the proper insurance. And so that's what we're seeing. We're also seeing that there's a lack of cultural competency from our providers, as well as prejudice from providers. And that's because of that low number of Black therapists that are in the field. It's hard to find somebody that's going to relate to your stories and things like that. I know, me personally speaking, finding a therapist was hard because there's some stories and some experiences that I have that they're going to look a lot different than, a white therapist. They're going to look a lot different than someone who hasn't seen some of the things that I've seen, who has not experienced some of the things that I experienced. And not saying that, we have to experience everything in life, because there's going to be things that I never experienced, but my client may experience, whether they are like me or not like me, But there's definitely a difference in how our responses are when we are able to be sensitive to the culture, sensitive to those experiences, and not just seeing it as, oh, like they went through that, like, oh, they're this, or, and that's where those type of biases come from, or, or the fear to even address some of those things, because like we haven't been through those things. So definitely a lot of issues with that. And then also there are some historical misconceptions and stigmas. So growing up, like, we didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about therapy. We didn't talk about our problems. Like, we just take it to God, or, we talk to our friend about it. We talk to mom and dad about it. And whatever happens in this house stays in this house. That was it. That was the culture. That was what we did, right? It wasn't seen as, therapy wasn't seen as something that was for us, That's for the white man. That's for the white people do that. And definitely, like, there's no shade to, any of my viewers that do identify as white. But yeah, there's definitely a difference in just how Black people have viewed therapy. It was something that was looked down upon. It was something that said, you're crazy if you are going to therapy. You're crazy or loopy if you're taking medication. Or, if you are in a religious sense, like, it's like you don't believe God. You don't believe that he's a healer. You're not trusting him. You're not praying enough. You're not going to church enough. You're not whatever, whatever those things were. And, just think about those things that were said to you. Like, think about all those times that somebody said those things and you kind of buried those problems. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, you've seen a lot of things. I'm pretty sure you've experienced a lot of things and you needed that relief, but was unable to get that because of these stigmas, because of these things that were passed down to us and just told generation after generation after generation. So definitely that's one of the barriers just within our culture that we're doing better with. I agree that we are tackling it better. Millennials, Gen Z, like, they're doing a thing, definitely providing awareness, definitely taking advantage of the services, which is good. But still, we got a lot of work, a lot of work to do. Definitely COVID highlighted, the need for this as well. But yeah, we have a lot of work to do. And then the last barrier is the lack of representation. Like I said before, only 4% of Black therapists, and then 27% BIPOC. Like, that's really low. That's really low. And so, like, definitely I encourage you, if you are thinking about joining the field, and if you are maybe think about seeking therapy. Like, just be encouraged. For those that are seeking therapy, be encouraged that there are some Black therapists out there. There are some BIPOC therapists out there. You might have to search a little bit. You might have to pay a little bit, you know. But they're out there. So be encouraged to know that they're out there. And we're going to talk more about that, about how to find the right therapist, about, you know, what to look for and things like that. We're going to talk more into that. But also, like, for those who are in grad school, for those who are thinking about joining the field, like, I just want you to be encouraged as well to know that, like, we need you. We need you in this field. And we know it's not easy. We know it's definitely a hill to climb, but push through all those things that I've gone through, the imposter syndrome, push through the hard work that it takes to get, you know, licensure, to get even the degree, to get all these different things, and educate yourself, really educate yourself. And push yourself to not just focus on one modality, but make yourself marketable, because we really need you out here. Again, it's only 4% of us, and then it's only 25% of Black Americans seeking therapy. And just because they seek it doesn't even mean that they're actually able to stay in it or maintain it or even enter into it because of all these barriers. And so we can tackle that of building that representation up. Then we can add some more percentages to that. To all my fellow therapists who are listening, who are not of the Black population or not of the BIPOC population, your job is to definitely become aware, become more culturally aware, to help, you know, those of Black or BIPOC culture, to be able to feel like they can feel safe in session, so that way that they can be able to deal with those problems and those traumas and all these different things that they've been holding on to. So become educated too. Become educated too. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. We're people. We're just all people with different experiences. So I really just want to continue this conversation on how to therapy, and I hope that, you know, this information so far has been beneficial for you. I want to encourage, you know, just everyone, you know, whether you are a therapist, whether you are in grad school, or you're thinking about, you know, getting therapy, or you're, you know, in therapy right now, but it might not be, you know, what you're looking for. You don't know if you're doing it right. And so this is what it's all about, how to therapy. So thank y'all for tuning in, and definitely there'll be more to come. All right, y'all. Again, my name is Brianna Williams, MS. Be sure to follow me on Reach Your Minds. That's on Instagram. And then also, if you have any questions, anything like that, concerning how to therapy, please DM me or shoot me a message using one of the links that is in the description of the podcast. Thank you so much, guys.